There are some moments in life where we seem to be moving forward on the outside, yet something inside feels strangely absent. Success is visible, progress is applauded, but presence feels thin. Many people describe this as confusion or burnout, others call it awakening. And today we are exploring a deeper question: what if numbness itself is a part of a larger transition and not a failure but a signal? Welcome to Divine Decode, where we explore the hidden patterns beneath human experience and the meaning woven into our inner lives. I'm your host, Shreya, and today I'm joined by Dr. Christiaan Oranje, whose life journey spans grief, trauma, addiction, outward success, and a long inner search for fulfillment. Our conversation centers on what he calls the typical dynamic. And if you have ever wondered why progress does not always bring up peace, this episode is for you. Welcome, Dr. Christiaan. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Welcome. Yes, thank you so much, Shreya. And the pleasure is all mine. It's always such a pleasure, a privilege to share what I've done in my life and the knowledge that came out of it to share that with your audience. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. And this platform is all yours. So if you want to share something about this with our listeners, that really be.
Yeah. So I'd like to invite you listeners to go on a little adventure with me, a treasure hunt. And what I'm about to present is like putting a puzzle together. We have all these pieces on the table with a box that has no picture on it because, hey, that's life. And by slowly putting every piece in place, it becomes clear what all this is about. And with every treasure hunt, there's a map coming with it, a map on which you see where the mountains are, the forests, and the rivers. And there's a dotted line that shows you the path from where you currently are, the black cross where you find the treasure. Another way to say it is that I like to take you on a helicopter ride. And in doing so, you're able to oversee the territory that I'm going to talk about. And I feel it's important to offer you such a view because it will give you a better idea, a better understanding of what actually is happening nowadays, why it is happening, and how to deal best with it. So, here we go. This territory you're about to see can be summarized in what I call the triple dynamic, which is something that, to my knowledge, no one is speaking about in this way. This triple dynamic consists out of three elements. Firstly, what is it that really happens when we numb or suppress uncomfortable feelings and thoughts? Secondly, how is life showing us what needs healing as we transition into a higher dimensional way of living? Thirdly, why is it that mindset and subconscious work often not anymore lead to lasting change? Now, to give you a bit of a context, I am primarily working with affluent, soul seeking women over 40 who have it all, yet feel empty or unfulfilled and struggle to be happy. I'd like to use the work I do with them to illustrate principles that anyone here listening can relate to. Simply because with them it's the most obvious, at least that is how I see it. This is what led to my discovery. Quite recently, I noticed a remarkable shift in seeing different kinds of clients reaching out to ask for my assistance, and the issues they are now bringing to the table are way more complex and more severe. And that made me wonder why? I found that there is a certain theme that all of the clients I work with now have in common, and that is what I call the triple dynamic. Back to the world of the affluent. In the high society circles, there's an unspoken rule that it is considered to be not done when you openly, and sometimes not even privately, speak about the more deeper and darker feelings and thoughts that may appear. In those circles, you're trained to keep up appearance, to smile, even when you're falling apart inside. I call this the silent epidemic among the affluent. Their suffering is invisible. Now, I'm not here to criticize that rule. I understand why it came into being and what its function is. What I do want to point out is what I see being the consequences of such a rule. It encourages an attitude in which there's no other alternative than suppressing what is not allowed to be felt. And as a result, cultivating a habit of numbing oneself. This seems to be way more convenient. It's quick. If the idea is all gone and dealt with, but not really. Now, for you listening, think about your own upbringing. Were your emotions welcomed? Could you express yourself freely? Numbing not only comes through, in this case of the affluent, through rules, can also happen by the people like parents, family members, teachers you found yourself surrounded with when you were little. That may be the kind of environment where the habit of numbing has been cultivated in you. Numbing can also come from a sudden, unexpected negative impactful, call it traumatic event. And the reason for that is that in such a moment, it's just, there's so much happening. It's all too much to process all at once. So you just have to push what couldn't and cannot be handled in that moment into your subconscious. And sometimes it goes straight into your unconscious. So this is the first element of the triple dynamic at play. All that we suppress has become part of what I call our conditioning. I call that our negative patterns of behavior in thinking, limiting beliefs, feeling, negative emotions, and the way we act, including the poor choices and decisions we make. I see a direct relationship between the degree to which someone suppresses negative feelings and thoughts and the way this expresses itself in the outer circumstances. Take, for instance, again the tendency toward numbing. Numbing has various side effects and consequences. It can show up as burnout, physical illness, or chronic fatigue. Suppressing your feeling takes a lot of energy. That's why. But for today, I want to emphasize on one particular side effect, which has to do with a simple principle. The moment you suppress the negative feelings and thoughts you don't want to feel or think, you automatically restrict your ability to experience the pleasant emotions and thoughts you do want to feel and think as well. This is my explanation for why so many wealthy people who have surrounded themselves with the lifestyle dreams are made of feel empty, unfulfilled, and unhappy, telling me that they are unable to truly enjoy all the richness life has to offer. Now, I know that what I'm talking about here is not for everyone. This, what the clients I'm currently working with are reporting back to me about what they're struggling with. And listeners, you see that here in these following descriptions. And maybe you recognize yourself in it. They say, for instance, I wake up feeling exhausted, more tired than I go to bed. Or I'm working so hard and still feel unfulfilled. Or I'm in this relationship that drives me crazy. Or I've accumulated all that wealth. I've inherited or been born in it, and I'm not enjoying it. Or I have this condition, this disease, and treatments don't have any effect. Or this particular situation is happening, and it's happening time and time again, and I'm fed up with it. How to break the cycle? Or I do all this work to change what makes me unhappy, but deep down, nothing seems to make any difference. Or all of this is driving me to the edge of hopelessness, wondering what is the point of it all? Now, listeners, have there been moments where you've said or thought something similar? Now, I think we can all agree on the fact that the situation and circumstances we live in nowadays are rapidly intensifying. And the one logical explanation is to see the political tensions and the threat of war and the economic instability as the cause of it. But what I see is that there's actually another more hidden reason why things are intensifying. And that has to do with the second element of the triple dynamic, and that is the transition into the fifth dimensional way of living that is happening. When I speak about the transition into the fifth dimensional way of living, I'm not talking about something abstract or far out there. Let me briefly explain. The fifth dimensional way of living is not something you go to, it's not a place. It refers to an inner state of being. The transition happens within. As I've come to understand it, it is not possible, and if it is, I find it not wise to jump from the 3D reality we've been living in for centuries straight into 5D. It's like climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the more it's necessary to let go. You cannot take everything you've gathered at base camp with you to the top. It won't work. The reason that it is not going to work is because in life, and if you believe in it over lifetimes, we have built up this conditioning I spoke about earlier, which is, as you can see, greatly disturbing and interfering with the life we are living here in 3D. If we would take that conditioning we've built up within ourselves with us in 5D, it will again greatly disturb the quality of our renewed state of being, as it is already doing now. So, what needs to happen is that we first move through the fourth dimension. Moving through the fourth dimension serves various essential functions. One of them is that this is a period in which we have the opportunity to cleanse and clear ourselves. In other words, to release, to resolve, to heal, to transform everything of that conditioning we carry with us. The conditioning that served us well in the past, but over time has become a burden, now hindering and sometimes even totally blocking us from living the life we truly love to live. But, and here we touch on the third element of the triple dynamic, here we have a challenge. And that has to do with the fact that we are created with a conscious, a subconscious, and an unconscious mind. The characteristic of the sub and unconscious mind is that we have stored things in there of which we are not yet or not anymore conscious of. Now, there are exceptions, but in most cases, we can only change something when we know what it is. Think about the opposite. How can we work with something we are not aware of? The question slash challenge, therefore, is how can we become conscious of things we are not yet or not anymore conscious of? There's an expression in Sufism that says everything in this material world is done through mirrors. The function of a mirror is that it's like a road sign. It points at something that wishes to be seen and acknowledged, wishes to be healed, wishes to be released and freed. The synonym for mirror is a catalyst. And there are various forms those mirrors slash catalysts can appear and show up in our life. It can come as a certain situation or circumstance you find yourself in, or through an encounter with a specific kind of person or group of people, or it can come in the form of a physical condition, like an illness. It can come in the form of an imbalance in your emotional and or mental state. For instance, burnout is an example of that. Now, here's the thing. The world has changed. We have changed. And since, due to the working of the fourth dimension, issues are rapidly becoming more complex and more severe, it requires, on one hand, that we update and refine methods and tools we already have at our disposal, as well as the creation of new ones. The journey into 5D can be seen as one that leads us from our human mind, as being the master, into our heart and soul, making the mind our servant. The language of our mind is words. The language of our heart is sound. For that reason, I've developed a new sound healing technology that specifically is designed to help clients to identify and transform conditioning that is stored in their unconscious. And since the circumstances we live in have changed, and the complexity of issues we encounter is increasing, in order to properly address and resolve what is causing our suffering, a deeper transformational journey is required. This implies two things. This needs care, and it will take some time and effort to do this well. And it will not always be an easy ride, but definitely one that leads to change that sticks, the kind of change that is long lasting. From experience, I know that the moment I say these words out loud, that a deeper transformational journey is needed. For some listeners, almost immediately a sense of fear and or resistance bubble up. And that is so understandable. Let's say, for instance, that your passion is to dance on a high rope in one of those big circus stops. And I come along and say, hey, I know one nearby and I can take you there. And then after arrival, I show you the ladder and say, come on, climb up to the top and do your thing without giving you any instructions. You have no training, never done it before. What do you think? Would you start to feel some fear and resistance doing it? Of course you would. However, the moment I explain that there are three types of resistances and how to best deal with it, and when I explain the how to's, giving you the knowledge, help you develop certain skills you need, hand over the right method to use, put together a solid self care plan, and inspire you to engage in a daily training to prepare yourself, I see over and over again that in doing it like this, the fear and resistance in the client I find sitting opposite of me is greatly reduced. What it all comes down to is, and that's a good thing to remember, before you dive into such a deeper transformational journey, make sure you establish the proper circumstances and conditions to do this work in a safe and secure way. To stay in the metaphor, make sure to hook up your safety net first.
This is truly amazing. I think you have explained everything so beautifully and so easily. And I hope my listeners will no longer have any doubts about this topic. And thank you for explaining the whole thing so wonderfully, so effortlessly. And like, if after this my listeners want to connect with you, then what is the best way?
Yes, thank you for the question. And what there is a particular, let's say, takeaway that I would like you listeners to leave with. Whenever you want to change something or you are confronted with a difficult situation, what most likely happens is that it has a negative impact on how you feel and think. It makes you slide into a lower vibrational, also known as a non resourceful state. You know, that's logical. We are human. For instance, being in fear or in a fight, flight, or freeze state is an example of that. And this is the last thing you want to see happening because in those kind of situations, what you actually need is to have the energy and vitality that gives you the clarity of mind, the strength, the determination, etc., to deal with it. What you need is something that helps you do exactly that. Something that helps you shift from a non resourceful, lowest vibrational state into what I call the state of excellence as quickly as possible, and to maintain it while the situation you are in is still challenging and perhaps unbearable. And by the way, that is to me what resilience is all about. So, for anyone listening who feels that this is something you can use, I'd love to offer you this as a small gift. It's a short downloadable ebook called The 5 Steps to Transform Any Negative Feeling or Thought, Anytime, Anywhere, in 7 minutes or less. And I created it because when I look at my life, my own life, I carried negative emotions and thoughts with me way longer than I had to. Simply because no one ever showed me that all this can be transformed much quicker, even when needed instantly in the moment. The advantage of this 5 steps ritual is that it prevents you from suppressing of what you don't like to feel or think, and instead to turn those negative feelings and thoughts into ones that energize and empower and uplift you. You'll find the link in the show notes. It's a simple download and you'll receive it by email. In addition, for those of you here listening who have it all yet still feel unfulfilled, and sense the desire to take a deeper step for you, I'm also offering a complimentary From Pointless to Purpose treasure map consultation. It's a 1 hour conversation where you can experience how I work, ask your questions directly, and explore whether I'm the right person to assist you in making the changes you want or need to make. And just to be clear, this is a no pressure consultation. There's no obligation. It is simply an invitation to explore.
Yes, and I will make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you. And this is truly an really amazing conversation. Thank you, Dr. Christian, for sharing all your insights, your knowledge, your experience with us. I think this just made this conversation so amazing. And to my listeners, thank you for joining us on Divine Decode. If today's conversation starts something subtle but meaningful, I invite you to stay with it rather than rush to answers. Sometimes decoding our lives begins not with clarity but with the courage to feel again. Until next time, take care and stay present. And do not forget to hit the follow button, subscribe, and feel free to share your thoughts because your ears deserve premium content. Thank you.